Hello and welcome back to the TC Show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have an outstanding panel to talk about what I consider to be very many interesting and controversial topics. Some of them are controversial. For example, we're going to be talking about the 4 ballot questions which are going to be on the state ballot in November. We're also planning to talk about medical marijuana and legalization of marijuana, gun control, and all kinds of topics like that, which I think the minimum wage, topics like that, which I think you're going to find very interesting. At least I hope so. I find them interesting anyway. So with me tonight we have Dennis Galvin. How are you, Dennis?
Very good. How are you, Tom? How you doing?
Great,
good,
thanks.
Good to be back again.
It's your 4th time in the show, right, Dennis?
Yes, it is.
We're getting there, and well, later on we'll talk about it, but you're running for state rep this
yes,
year,
I am.
right?
Yep.
For the seat that's currently
Second
held by Jim
Middlesex.
Arcero.
That's correct.
2nd Middlesex?
Yeah.
State representative,
Yes.
right? Nice. And you're a former state police officer,
yes.
right?
Yep. Former state police officer, and then I was in private business for a while.
Oh, good.
So I had both of those sides covered. So
If the show doesn't go well tonight, could you arrest me?
no.
Oh, good.
My powers have
safe.
expired, Tom.
I'm safe. Your power's good, good. So now
I had to
I'm
check
safe.
them in when I walked out the door.
Well, thanks for being here again.
Oh, it's my
Dennis.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we have my friend Richard Day with us tonight. How are you, Richard?
Very good.
And Richard, as everyone probably knows in Chelmsford, is a director of the Board of Health here in town.
It's been a long run, 34 years.
You're kidding, 34
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Why do you
34
keep
years.
doing it, might I ask? Or, I mean,
I-
do you keep want to go forever or what?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not a forever guy. But,
Oh, okay, yeah.
But bottom line is I like what I do. And
That's
as
wonderful.
long as I can do it, I'll do it.
Yeah. And later on, we'll talk about some of the clinics you have coming
Sure,
up soon.
sure,
And,
sure. Appreciate it.
and plus, we'll be interested to get your Board of Health perspective on some of these topics.
Okay.
Thanks, Richard.
Not a problem.
And we have my friend Angie Taranto with us again. How are you, Angie?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
Good, thanks.
Good. It's good to be
Angie.
back. I noticed you said it was a year ago that I was on.
Yes, a year
Yeah.
ago, and I was going through my list. I said,
Yeah.
let me invite Angie on the show again. He's a great panelist.
Yeah.
And you know, this is your 24th time on the show, which is
I didn't
amazing.
realize that.
There's only been 9 people out of hundreds that I've had on the show over 20 years
Right.
that have hit 20 appearances or more. And
Oh,
you're
wow.
one of the
One
9,
of one,
Angie.
huh? Wow,
So
that's good.
And because you've been very active in town, you've been a longtime school committee member, a longtime town meeting representative, a teacher at the high school, then a dean at the high
Right.
school. So very involved with the town. Are you still in the Democratic Town Committee?
Yep, yep,
Great.
yep.
So you're very active with the town, and so it's always great to have you on the show, Angie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And thanks for being here.
Good.
And we have my good friend Janet Askenburg with us. How are you, Janet?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. You know, this is your 10th time on the show, Janet.
Woohoo.
So you're double digits now, that's unusual too. Not everybody hits that.
Okay,
That's
well, thank
unusual.
you. It's an honor.
Oh, thanks for being here. And you've been involved in politics now in Chelmsford for a while now. First as a member of the school committee and a chairperson for a couple of years while you were there, right?
And served with Angie.
Served with
Yeah.
Angie, so you know each other very well.
Yes.
Right?
And now you're a member of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen.
That's correct.
Currently the vice chairman,
Vice
is it?
chair, yeah.
Nice, nice. So you're not up for re-election next year. I think Pat and George Dixon are up next April,
Next
right?
spring,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then I will be, Matt and I will be up the following year.
Nice. So I won't ask you anything about if you're running again or whatever. It's a little too early for that. But it's great to have you on the show.
Thank
and
you again.
you always have a good perspective on things. So, and you're a member of the Republican Town Committee, are you?
That's correct.
Right, great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, Janet.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. So maybe if we could start with Dennis.
Yeah.
And Dennis, could I ask you, why have you decided to run for state representative this year?
Well, Tom, it's the same question you asked me 10 years ago,
Yeah,
right? So
okay.
it's an extension of the same
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
I'm running. I want to run again because I'm very, very concerned that we're not getting the adequate representation that we need on Beacon Hill. I'm seeing a major concentration of power on Beacon Hill. I'm seeing hoarding of resources being distributed to the parts of the state. And I don't see this district getting its fair share of resources, particularly in local aid, particularly here in Chelmsford is a good example. And I'm just very concerned that the taxation that we're seeing and some of these regulations that we're seeing are also going to affect our ability to economically grow. And that's going to have an effect on the Second Middlesex as well, because this is a district of hardworking, productive people who really care about their families and want to stay here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Dennis, which is great, but you're running as a Republican, right? You're a longtime Republican.
Yes.
So, And so you would be part of a minority party in the State House.
Yeah.
Do you think you would be able to affect change? Because you know how difficult it is if you're not part of the majority to get even things brought up, to get these bills being brought up.
Well, that's a good question, and I'm gonna answer that because I've watched this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
All right, I think I can have more of an effect.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I would not be subject to the rigid party discipline that you're seeing in the State House right now. There was one dissenter, a fellow by the name of Charles Murphy in Burlington, who tried to challenge, or at least suggest he would challenge the House Speaker, and they literally wrote him out. So right now, coming in as a Republican would give me a much broader ability to be able to form new coalitions, reach out to other people, particularly Democrats, and see if we can't form some coalitions to better serve the problems that we're facing here. Right now, that's not being done.
Yeah. Do you think these Democrats, though, would join with you rather than following and going along with the Democratic leadership?
Well, here's my thought. Here's my thought on that.
Yeah.
I've watched the voting records for the last 2-3 years in the House, and there is at least 10 to 15 Democrats that have showed a record of I think independence. If we can just expand the Republican base by 10, which would bring it up to 40 members, and we were to get a Republican governor in there, they would feel confident in joining us on a lot of votes, particularly those related to trying to expand and grow business in Massachusetts.
And that's one of your main ideas,
That
right?
is
That you'd like to expand
number one,
business.
yes.
Do you think we're overregulated in terms of our businesses in Massachusetts?
I think, let's put it this way, I think we're overtaxed, that's for sure. I think we are overregulated to an extent, but I also think we're non-competitive. We're having problems, and you're going to be talking about some of the issues today.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about those with New Hampshire to our north and Connecticut to our south. Some of the impositions that the legislature wants to put on our business folks may cause them a problem to be able to be competitive here.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
So are you in favor of immediately reducing the state income tax to 5%?
I would do it over a period of 2 to 3 years, hopefully. I mean, there's a proposal for 5 years, but it has to be done. It was a mandate by the people of Massachusetts, and we need to get that job done.
Yes.
And it depends on the adjustments that have to be made to happen. But it'd be top priority for me.
Yes.
Biggest thing also is the sales tax, up to 6.25%. Anybody that runs a retail business along the border of Massachusetts is basically having a serious time right now.
Yeah. So what would you like to see that go back
Back
down
to
to
5%?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. 5, 5, and 5 would be a great idea. So
Yeah.
if we can get those back, we get 5% for the income tax, 5% for the sales tax. Within 5 years, I think that's a Republican proposal that I've supported.
That would be like a good theme for you to run on 555. Have you been using?
Well, I can't
Because
steal
remember
that.
Herman Cain 999.
That's it, yes, that's
99, and he got.
But that didn't turn out too
Turned
well.
out
It
too
did,
well,
but
no.
initially it did though, because it was so easy to remember. Remember?
Yeah.
It was amazing. He was like in the top of the polls for like a week or two.
Oh, yeah,
All
yeah.
on 999.
That's all
so
it
you
is, a
could
week or
try
two.
555.
Oh, yeah. Jam it right through.
But one last question, then we'll come around. We have all these topics that I'm sure
sure.
you can have opinions on. I hope so.
Oh yeah.
The person you're running against, Jim Arcero, has a reputation, and I think if you look at his voting records, he has been very independent of the Democratic leadership, it seems. Don't you see that?
I don't agree with
you
that.
don't agree with that?
Not at
yeah.
all. He has a 95% voting record with the House Speaker. On key bills, particularly the Transportation Finance Bill, which is the gas tax bill, he voted, there were 2 out of 3 votes. The third one was a critical one. He flip-flopped on the vote and imposed that tax. Now, he's going to fight that to the death, but I have the record, and I'll be prepared to show the vote.
Yeah.
On the override question, which was the key vote from the governor, the override question, he voted to support the House Speaker, and when he did that, they imposed the gas tax.
Oh, I see.
And along with
Well,
the
we
inflation
need
tax.
gas tax to pay for the roads and bridges, right?
Well,
so what are you objecting to?
The objection to that is not so much that obviously we need to do economic growth. You need it, but it was purported to be for transportation costs, right?
Yeah.
But there was an open end to it, right? The Republicans came up with a counterproposal, a transportation finance bill, or a finance infrastructure fund that would have taken all excess revenue or some excess revenue, put it in this fund, and it would have been dedicated solely for that. Democrats didn't want that. Some of that revenue that you're paying on the gas tax is going into the general fund. And that is a major issue.
I see.
Okay.
And that's why you object to
Yeah,
it so much,
yeah.
because it's going into
Yeah.
the general fund?
Yeah, because it's supposed to
Which
be
is-
going that, and it's not. It's going over this.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
taxing
thanks.
us causing us a lot of impact on our businesses. Anybody that's commuting back and forth to work is going to feel the punch pinch. And I think what happened here was we've asked our citizens to take on a burden that they weren't I think fairly presented with what the real purpose of this bill was.
Okay.
And
Great,
so.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, Angie, maybe if I could ask you, we have a town meeting coming up beginning October 20th.
Right.
You're a longtime rep. Have you had a chance to look at any of the warrant articles
I
yet?
have. Yes,
Is there
I have.
any in particular that you'd like to talk a little bit about tonight?
There's one there for the demolition of the
the fire station, yeah.
To me, we just saw shots over here on the previous to your opening of your show,
Yeah.
how beautiful I think the town looks.
Yes.
And when you pull in, you see it. And to see that building, if it's going to have to be boarded up, I think it takes away from the core of the town.
Does it have to be boarded up?
Well, I think they will eventually, because how else are you going to prevent people from getting in there? I mean,
How do we
listen to
prevent
it.
people from getting into other buildings?
I know
Lock the
that.
door, I guess.
That's what I was just going to say. I
Like the
don't
White
think it's
House,
going
do
to
it.
do it. I don't think it's going to do it. If people want to get in someplace, they're going to get in there. And I think it is a safety factor. I feel badly for the present firemen that are working in there now. I mean, I've toured that several
me too,
times.
yeah.
And to say that there's water coming in down there, and I just think get rid of it. I don't know what they could do, make it a nice greenery. But I know there are some people who are saying that maybe we should have some alternatives, like is there anybody else who might be interested in it. It's been open for, and I don't think anybody has come across yet. And I don't know.
Have we really tried though, looking for anyone?
I assume they did. I
don't know,
think
'cause
I would. Probably not.
There is a
maybe
restaurant,
Jenny, you
as
would know.
you're aware, in
as far as-
Concord.
Pardon?
There is a restaurant in Concord made out of their old fire
Old
station.
fire station.
Which looks very nice,
Right, right.
But
But-
I don't know. I'm not saying that would happen or not, but I'm saying maybe we
Maybe
should
it
look
could be.
into it, because I certainly think that's an old building, built
Yeah.
about 1950 approximately.
Yeah, I think it's
And
about there.
you know,
yeah.
I think it would add more character to the center of town if that's just fixed up a little bit. I don't think it's going to cost $1 million to well,
to have something go in there. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I just
But-
right now I would just say let's get it out of there,
Yeah.
for safety hazards, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
let's open it up.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah, anything
My
else,
other one is the election of the ZBA.
yes.
You're listening to it. Originally, you look at it, and then, you hear that there's only 3 other communities that have an elected Board of Appeals, or the ZBA. And then to me, you might argue with me on it. It keeps I think it keeps the politics out of it. I think you'll get people who want to apply for it will be those that are concerned, those who have a background. They do, I hope, go through a good interview process. And if it's just the town manager, you can bring in other people to interview these people
Yes.
to make the appointment. I
Yeah.
just think I'd like to keep the
That's right.
election out,
So so you don't want them
I
to be
don't want it,
elected.
right.
You
I
want them
want it to stay the way
retain
it
the way it
is.
is
Yes,
now,
yes, I do.
which was appointed and agreed to or not agreed to by
Right,
the Board of
right.
Selectmen, right, Janet? Do you agree? Yeah. So
Right.
I mean that's the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Angie. Thanks.
okay.
Well, we'll talk about all these other
got the
issues.
others.
Are
which
we going to
hopefully-
come back to that discussion?
No. Well, do you want to add
I would
something
just,
now?
Go
I just
ahead.
have a counter argument to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, on the fire station, I'm not
Oh, the
necessarily.
fire station, yeah,
I'm not
okay.
necessarily saying I disagree that it shouldn't be leveled. I'm just saying not right now.
Right.
Because it is a goal of the Board of Selectmen to fully explore
Right.
the
You're
use,
right.
the
Yeah,
potential uses.
right.
So I would just love to have that public input before we make that final decision. Because
Okay.
what I would hate is if the fire station is demolished
And then some.
and someone does come forward
But-
with some great idea, or there's some funding, there's something we can do there. So I would just like to have the discussion before
Okay.
we make
Yeah,
a
I
rash
see where you're coming
decision
from, but it's
to
just
level
that
it.
I just thinking by now, has anybody come up? I mean, I haven't heard of any.
Actually, I have
Have
been
you?
approached.
Have you?
Yep, there's somebody in the center who has a retail business and that would love that position. And I know that Bob Joyce has been approached by somebody as well. You know,
Well,
a
I
different
mean, I'm
person.
all
So
for business, expanding and improving and
I would just
getting
love
some
the
in there.
opportunity to
What-
have that discussion.
My question then would be for that is parking. Is there
Right.
a parking behind?
The person
they
who
have it?
currently has a retail business has about the same amount of parking.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
again, I'd just like to fully explore
Yep.
it before we tear down
Okay.
the building.
If somebody comes up forward, let's listen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, that
But of
doesn't,
course, we got the town meeting, so
Yeah.
what do we have, 3 weeks?
yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't
for the
mean it
town
can't
meeting,
go
yes.
back out, to town meeting in the spring.
Bring, yeah, that's true.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That's true.
But I'd
That's
just
true.
rather not
Do-
make a
yeah,
rash decision.
Just
I
to go
believe in
jump
not
on it,
rushing
right,
things
okay.
as well.
And on the zoning board of appeals issue, I'm a little up in the air on that right now, but
Yeah.
I'm actually leaning towards being in favor of having them elected.
Really, yeah.
I would rather err on the side of more democracy than less.
I
And I don't necessarily see the appointment of, one person and one board approving that appointment as less political. I actually see that as actually more
that's
political.
why I said you could go that route, but I think if you have more than the one person doing that interviewing, but I'm also looking at it, look how the hard time we have getting people to run for office now.
I agree.
And I'm saying people, I don't know, Saturday at Common Day, it's called different than the Common Day. They had vendors out in the common and everything else. And people were talking about it, like, why aren't we getting people to run? And I had a young lady who said her husband really watches all the board meetings and so forth. And I said, oh, great. I said, would he like to, come and run? I said he could meet with different people on the boards and everything. She says, no, he doesn't want to go that far. And then I said, well, that's our problem. I said, we need some young blood. We need some new people with ideas and so forth. But you can't get the candidates I think you can't get them to run.
Yeah, but if you really want it, then you're going to put the,
I know
the
you
effort
will.
into
I
it
know.
and you're going to run.
I
and
know, but
and I
people
know
don't
there's
like
only
that
a few
election,
in
yeah.
Massachusetts,
Yeah.
few towns, but I did look in New Hampshire, and there's 51 communities in
That
New
have
Hampshire
elected?
that have elected zoning board of
Oh,
appeals.
wow.
Great.
And I like to, rather than just think just Massachusetts, I like to
Yeah.
open it up a little bit and see
Yeah.
what some of the surrounding states are doing. So there,
Great.
again,
That's
I'm
good.
trying to keep my mind open to
Yeah,
it right
good.
now, but again, I'd rather err on the side of a little more democracy than less.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great
Do you
discussion.
want to
Thank you.
continue on those two?
Do you have some opinions?
ahead.
Go-
Well, I mean, I know the fire station well.
Yes.
Yes.
It doesn't have any value as a restaurant,
As
as a potential restaurant.
a restaurant, no, it doesn't.
No.
Why not?
Well, as the person that would approve the renovations of it, it would cost you more to renovate that building than it would be to build a new one.
Yeah.
The building
Oh, yeah, I
doesn't.
know. Sometimes
the,
it
the
costs a
building
lot.
doesn't have much value. What could go on the site and,
Yeah.
and whatever, with a different footprint and with a different offset for parking and other kinds of things.
Yeah.
But the building itself is on the edge of major problems if it isn't already there, and
Yeah.
I don't really see
Major structural problems kind of thing?
I really don't see ways of
Yeah.
doing a lot
Yeah,
with
I
it.
understand that. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
So, and on the
But-
other issue of if it ain't broken, fix it kind of thing. I mean, we've had some long things over the years that I've been involved with, and pretty simply, and I've had my contentions with the Board of Appeals over the years on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And of course, I give them my recommendation written on certain projects, whatever. But I've also seen some of the other things that were elected, and I've seen some of the issues. So
Yes.
right now, I'm not really in favor of,
Yeah.
of changing the process.
Of electing the Board of Appeals. You'd
Yeah.
like to keep it the way it is now. Yeah, thanks, Richard.
But
Well-
wouldn't that have to be we'd have to have another vote because isn't that a charter?
Yeah,
that
I
says
imagine
that
that
it
would
has
have
to
to
be.
be,
Yes, that'd be
we'd have to
a
change
charter.
it, so we'd have to go through another process.
Yeah, maybe try.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's-
too bad your fire station isn't up to speed. We're looking for one down in Westford. Maybe we can work out a swap or something.
That's good. I like that.
I don't think you want it.
Well, thank you for telling me.
Yeah, not this one. So Richard,
That's funny.
so you're the director of the Chelmsford Board of Health. Do you have some clinics coming up soon, don't you?
Yes, I mean, this is the beginning of flu season, of course, and this Friday, October 3rd, we have our first flu clinic, and then on the 16th, we have our second one. And then depending on the need and demand and vaccine availability and whatever, we potentially would go further. We've basically just finished a reasonably moderate mosquito season for vector control and disease. We didn't have any of the hot spots that we've had over the last few years, luckily. But of course, what happens is that somebody else does. So it kind of bounces around.
Could you define what you mean by hotspot?
Well, the idea is that we've had positive virus found in the past in town, physically in town, which means we actually have mosquitoes carrying the specific viruses
And that would be
around a
called a
particular
hot
neighborhood.
spot?
Right,
Kind of,
around a
yeah.
particular neighborhood.
Yeah.
And luckily, this year's testing and whatever showed that it's moved along, which years before that it was in other towns too, kind of thing. So it bounces around, but it is not the worst thing in the world to get a little break in between on some of the things. Because I mean, when you have to spray that whole section within 8 hours of notification or whatever, at least that's what that's what we do in town.
Yes.
You know, other towns have put it off to doing spraying and whatever.
Yeah.
No, if I know there's an actual virus being carried by mosquitoes in your neighborhood, in your street, I can't see any particular reason why delay of removing those mosquitoes from that area.
Yes.
And
yes.
delaying, oh, well, we'll have a vote, we'll get together next week, and then we'll decide to when we're going to spray and whatever. And you're exposing that particular part of the population to a known fact, not a hypothetical, maybe the mosquitoes are carrying the virus in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
We know they're in your neighborhood. So how can you put it off? So usually the 3 times that we've done the spraying, we've been able to get notification of the lab results by 11 in the morning, and by 8 o'clock that night, we're spraying them.
Good, good. That's good.
So there's absolutely no delay in us knowing where they are and taking care of the problem.
Wonderful.
So,
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you.
good.
Janet, so you're a member of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. What's it, about a year and a half now, approximately?
Yeah.
So how do you like it so far, by
love
the
it.
way? Oh,
I
good,
love it.
good.
Yeah.
Well, do you have an issue or two or something that's coming up currently before the Board of Selectmen that you'd like to talk about a little bit?
Well, we have the town meeting, the warrant articles.
Yes.
We should be voting on those at our meeting on Monday.
Great. Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to highlight, Pete Padula from Chelmsford Telemedia will have a presentation on Monday night and talking about the digitization of the town's videos. The old Board of Selectmen videos, school committee videos, town meeting, and planning board.
Yeah.
And so they're on old VHS tapes. I think they go back to maybe the early 90s. So rather than, let them go into, get destroyed, we're working with Chelmsford Telemedia. They're working with us because they're taking on a lot of this. And through the help from volunteers, they're going to digitize it, put it out on the cloud. We're going to be working on, I forget what Pete called it, but we're going to be adding tags so that you can do a search and you could say, you could put in Angie Taranto and you could pull up, if you were ever at any Board of Selectmen meetings, speaking as a resident, any school committee meetings, and you can pull it up and it's a nice search feature.
Wonderful.
nice.
That's really
Wow,
important.
that's
That's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah. It's, preserving our town history.
Nice.
And, yeah.
Nice.
So we're working on that, and I'm really excited about that. And again, thanks to the staff at Chelmsford Telemedia for taking on that project.
But thanks to you for initiating it.
I don't think I initiated it.
Well, I haven't heard it before, but I remember you saying it, and I said,
okay.
well, it's nice.
Yeah.
'Cause you
It's the Board of
brought
Selectmen.
it up. It is,
The
but I
town
think
manager's
you, as
helping
one of
us.
your,
It's an initiative for the Board of
initiative, right,
Selectmen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other topic you might want, that's before the Board of Selectmen that you might want to mention? If not, that's fine, because we have a lot of topics to talk about.
Matt Hansen and I are on the Financial Policy Subcommittee, so we're currently reviewing those right now.
Yeah.
We've brought forth a couple of revisions for the board to consider, and we'll be coming back. One of them is that the town manager shall present a balanced budget to town meeting. And I think most of the board's on board with that. And another is a discussion on the allocation of free cash.
Yes.
My contention has always been, when we have free cash at the end of the year, that's the taxpayers' money. And that's not for us as a town to keep the change and just spend it. I think a certain percentage should every year be allocated towards the tax levy for the next year to help keep the growth of property taxes down.
Yes. So that might come up at the Board of Selectmen meeting this coming Monday, right?
Not this Monday, but at a future meeting.
A future meeting, I
Yep.
see, great. And I think right now, you're planning to mention maybe 25% to go back to help reduce the levy, the
Yes.
tax levy for homeowners or
Yes,
whatever.
initially I had proposed 50%, but I got no support from the board.
Yeah.
But Matt Hansen had agreed that, he thought 25% was a reasonable
Good
number.
starting point.
Yeah, it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
And I believe Bob Joyce is on board as well, so
Yeah,
we'll be
great.
coming back to the board with that.
Good
And
luck
hope,
with it. Well,
Yeah.
revolutionary if you can do it.
Yeah.
but you know what? I just think it's just common sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you went to, let's say you went to Dunkin' Donuts and they said your coffee was $2.50 and you give them $3
You get
and they just
change.
kept it.
You get
You'd
change.
be like, well, where's my change? And they
change,
said,
yeah.
well, I'm going to invest in some new machinery. Well, you know what? Let me make that decision.
Very good.
But you don't
Right,
just keep the
right.
change.
Yes.
So anyways, that's something I'm actually really
Very good.
passionate about. And I'd love to see the state
Do the same thing.
do the
Yeah.
same
We
thing.
can bring you some good change back here.
That's why I'm voting for you.
I would hope
We
you
got some
would.
heavy
I
change.
saw
we can
your
bring
sign,
back.
Dennis' sign on your lawn coming over here
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah, signs up
Absolutely, I
early.
support
Thank you.
Dennis.
Thank
Very
you.
honored to have her support.
Yeah.
She's a good selectman. She's the future here.
Yeah.
Thank
So-
you.
Oh, yeah, she's doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about if we talk about these 4 ballot questions? Well, they're
Okay.
very interesting, and,
Yep.
and we have some other great topics too afterwards. Well, the first ballot question basically, should we repeal the state's gas tax indexing adjustment for inflation every year? So it's an open discussion. Anybody will just have an open discussion
Well,
about it.
If you don't
Yes.
mind, that's yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a key issue in this campaign. It's taxation without representation.
Right.
Everybody has
Absolutely.
to remember that. And it was a bad bill to begin with. Okay. And they compounded it by that. It seems to be a trend in state government to tie everything to inflation, so the folks up there don't have to go on the roll call and take a vote on it.
That's
and
right.
if this tax was such a good idea, why can't they vote for it every year?
That's right.
So that's
So
my
that's your
I
opinion.
agree with
So
that.
you're in favor
I
of the
agree with
repeal?
that.
Question 1.
Absolutely.
Angie,
I
you're in
agree
favor
with
as well?
that. I
Yeah?
think accountability to me is important. Not sit back and just say, well, it's going to go. I don't have anything to do with
Yeah,
it. No,
yeah.
people should be able to say, I voted for it. I want it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so people can get behind them. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Angie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I don't think they should get a free pass.
Yeah, there's very few things that you should get a free pass
Right.
that you never have to vote on it again. I mean,
Exactly.
that's totally off base.
Right.
If you make a decision, you should be able to stand behind it.
Right.
Well, then stand behind it. If you think
Yep.
it should go up every year, then you need to stand behind that it should go up every year.
Yeah.
Versus
It wasn't
thi-
me.
If
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if things change in either direction, it just goes up anyways.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's no accountability there.
No.
I think it's kind of a chicken way out, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be proud to be a part of that vote.
No.
And think about this, Tom. It hurts. It hurts the folks that are really working on the margins. If you're commuting back and forth to work every day, or you're in a business, and I've had some conversations with folks in the landscaping business. This tax really hurts them, particularly the uncertainty with the inflation tie-in. So
Yeah.
it's really a job killer in a way.
Yeah. Well, out of the 5 of us, I'll be the one to take the other point of view. I do believe in indexing for inflation because we're trying to maintain our roads and bridges, and we can't do that without resources. If you don't index it to inflation, you're basically saying every year it's going to go down by the rate of inflation, the amount available for the roads and bridges, about 2 to 3% a year. You're going to decrease the resources. And we won't be able to maintain our roads and bridges unless we have those resources to maintain them. So you're saying, well, make them accountable every year for it. I think that just wastes time of the State House. I think there's very important issues they should be discussing. But if you have it automatically go in accordance with the CPI index, you don't have to waste all those days and hours going back and forth. And a lot of it is, I just think, demagoguing the issue for political purposes. To have them vote, oh, I voted against the gas tax. Like I think it's being used in a demagogic way against Martha Coakley right now. Because basically, she isn't looking to increase the amount for the roads and bridges every day or the gas tax. Basically, she's trying to just keep it even for inflation. So I agree with Martha Coakley on this.
Can you take a rebuttal, just a quick rebuttal?
Oh, sure,
and
yeah.
You did a spirited job of defending that. A very tough
No, I
decision.
believe it, but I
That's
believe
good.
strongly in that. But that's fine. But I respect
Here's
everybody's
the thing.
opinion.
Can I say this? The state budget has increased $8 billion in 6 years. It's now $37 billion. It's the highest it has ever been.
And
right?
we have less state aid.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
you have less.
Good.
Nothing is coming back here. So I agree with you. Infrastructure is critical. The question I have is, why isn't the legislature giving that the proper priority? And it's not. And it's trying to use this as an excuse so they can shift money to something else. And
But
that's
isn't
what my
it-
concern is.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
but
isn't this
state aid
money
tied
supposed to
to
be
this.
mandated to go
When
towards the
we have our
roads and
state aid?
bridges?
Well, as
The
I
gas
explained
tax?
before,
Yeah.
that's what they said. But the fact of the matter is that money is still going into the general fund.
Well,
Some of that
I
money
don't-
is going to the general
Well,
fund.
yeah,
It hasn't been
but-
locked out.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is that when the state says to you, oh, and the people have voted mandate that they want this to be done. Ha! Please.
Yeah, no,
Please.
it doesn't
I
get
mean,
done.
and again, of course, in the Board of Health, the tobacco. Okay? Do you know that maybe 20% of the tobacco money that comes back from all those large lawsuits and whatever actually goes towards anything to do with tobacco? They just skim it off the top. 80% of it.
Yeah.
And it gets spent on the general fund.
It's just
Yeah.
like a,
Okay.
it's a
But
slush fund.
It is a slush fund.
That's what
But
it
the
is.
general fund, though, where does the Chapter 70 money come from that we want to go back to the communities for our schools? From the general fund, right?
And it's
So
still
we,
there.
we need
It's
that
still
money from
there.
somewhere.
Yeah,
So
but-
it's
yeah,
not
but-
like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
but-
being
but-
thrown in the
but-
gutter.
But again,
we
no.
need that money.
If the people didn't specifically vote that money is to do this,
Right.
that's the issue.
Well,
The issue is
yeah.
the public votes, and then they do whatever they want to do.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Too much
but,
of it. Too
But
much
I'd
of it.
rather see the money being used for the most productive purpose.
Well, what you're
And I don't remember ever voting saying
Well, I think
anything
we
on,
all would.
on the cigarette taxes or whatever would have to go towards just cigarette things. I think that
It
should
was
go.
supposed to, yeah.
Well, I disagree
then
with
what
that
what
because
you guys are talking about is
Yeah. But
that's the lawsuit.
It's endemic
Yeah.
to we're a commonwealth, which we have a general fund. Other states, the majority of states, don't do that. When you tax, it goes to a specific thing.
Yeah.
We have not decided not to do that. So
Yeah.
this little discussion that we're talking about and these battles over where the money goes
Yeah.
are endemic to our form of government in Massachusetts. Now, if we want to change it, we might want to have a long conversation about that.
Yes.
You know, but I understand that concern.
But we do want to
Yeah.
maintain our roads
Oh,
and bridges,
absolutely.
right? You were a former
Absolutely.
state police
Absolutely.
officer,
Yeah,
going
priority.
along those highways, and sometimes you go through some states that don't have good roads, and you have all these potholes in there. It's ridiculous that if they're not maintaining the roads very well.
It's
And
critical
it takes
for
money
growth.
and resources to do that. But I respect everybody's opinion. It's just
Right.
that I'm very much in favor of indexing things because otherwise you reduce things in the real value of them, inflation-adjusted value. Things go down if you don't adjust for inflation. That's why Social Security, which I get, maybe Angie gets, is adjusted
No, I
for
don't
a
get it.
little bit of inflation every year. And they don't go back and vote on that every particular year, you know? So anyway, it's a similar kind of thing. But why don't we go on to question
Go
number
ahead.
2? Okay, basically, question number 2. A yes vote would prohibit casinos and slot machines in Massachusetts. So yes, prohibit, no, let's go ahead with the 3 casinos and that kind of thing. It's open discussion for anybody
I would say go ahead with it.
with the casinos.
Right.
Okay.
I think when we talked with Janet earlier, I am impressed with the fellow that's speaking for the city of Springfield.
Okay.
And what it would do to that depressed area and create, I think my figure is 3,000 jobs.
Yeah.
It would bring in more attraction of restaurants and other kinds of shops to that area that people would go out there instead of us going down to Connecticut or where else they're going to go. So I would like to see it. And as far as, the people are talking about the addicts, the addicts and people and everything else, what are we doing now? I mean, there's still those people that are still there. I don't think it's going to create more
I
of
don't
that.
know.
To
It
me,
makes it
won't.
easier for them to get. It's
I know it
estimated
will
there's
be
about
easier,
Maybe
but-
30% of the people who are going to casinos have some sort of addiction to gambling.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? About
Yeah,
this
yeah.
just came up at a debate recently.
Yeah.
But whatever it is,
I
10 or
just-
30%. It's just sad to see
Yeah.
these people, get
But I would-
addicted and waste their money.
Right.
A lot of working class people too can't really afford
Everybody.
it.
I'd like to throw in on this because I had some conversation with it. I would be opposed to this gambling legislation as it is now. I mean, I would vote. No, I think the vote is to ban it. I would vote to
You say
ban it right now.
yes.
Scrap it.
Yeah.
So
right
yes,
now.
yeah,
So it'd be a
vote
yes.
yes to repeal. Yes.
Right. I'd vote yes to repeal.
Yeah.
And now, when I say that, I'm not opposed to the idea of having some form of gambling in the state. I just think this particular legislation that got passed was way too overreaching. Right? They talked about trying to manage 3 casinos and 1 slot parlor. I think the record, as we're seeing this roll out, the record of the Gaming Commission and its oversight does not inspire me with confidence. There was one of the members was caught was in a criminal offense down in Florida. There's some concerns about Commissioner Crosby and some of the ties he has to the industry. I just think it's too big, and I'm concerned of 2 things. Number one, I think people are overplaying the revenue that they think they're going to get out of this because they're already having problems in Atlantic City over revenue, and there's
Yeah.
too many gambling casinos in one concentrated area. And the second thing is, and this goes back to our real concern, I know Janet has it with me, is local aid. What happens if this begins to take revenue off the local aid, out of the lottery, so that the money doesn't come back to the cities and towns, right? And it's going straight into this industry. The dispersion of the funds that have been created by law are so dissipated that nobody really benefits. I mean, it's like I think 2-3% to several interests, including the horse racing industry,
Right.
and none of it would be coming back to the towns. And I think that's a concern for me.
None of this gambling money would be coming back to the
Some of it
towns?
would, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to the extent that like the lottery money would.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we lose the lottery revenue, let's say people are going to the casinos and they're not playing the scratch tickets.
As much.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
not
we're gonna
getting
get
a
hit.
full benefit from the lottery money as it is.
Which
We're
is
not
another
getting that.
problem.
That's another problem. Where is it? I mean,
Yeah.
towns were supposed to get that.
Yeah.
And it's not coming
We
back.
You're
get-
right, Angie. You're right.
You
Do
know,
we get
and it's-
some, Angie, though?
Well, we get some, but we're
Yeah.
not getting what we should be getting in the
Yeah.
lottery, and
Yeah.
that's what hurts.
Yes.
And then, of course, when I was on the school committee, we were asking for funds for Chapter 70 to run our schools.
Yes.
They gave cuts back there in 1990, and we never recovered from that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
2009 they cut
yeah,
too.
Yeah, and it's you're right. These promises that are made, it doesn't happen, and they make promises that they're going to revamp Chapter 70. They haven't done it.
Yeah.
They haven't done it. When Governor Duval ran the second time around, that was one of the things he was doing. I
Better
asked everybody, we never got it. We
Better
never did it.
reimbursement for our special ed costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that-
So
that
maybe we
costs-
should focus on fixing these things first before we start going down another
On a
path of
risky-
supposed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
increased revenue. I just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think about question 2, Janet? Are you in favor of repealing the casino law?
I'm leaning towards that, but to be honest with
Yeah,
you, I'm
yeah.
still in the phase of really doing
Okay.
enough research. I
Yeah.
understand Angie's point about job creation, but as I mentioned
Yeah,
to
you mentioned it.
what if
Use that
it
as
was
an excuse it as
what if
a-
it was a marijuana production facility that was gonna
Mm.
have 6,000 jobs? Would we still be so excited about it?
Right.
I don't think so. So it's not really about the jobs, is it?
No.
And the
Well,
jobs
that's-
the jobs
that's
are in the entertainment industry, and those jobs are typically lower paid levels. Management's
that's
going to
true.
do fine, but
Oh, yeah.
we're talking about closing that wage gap. We want to get that wage gap, and there's only one way to get that, and that's getting manufacturing back into Massachusetts again.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we want to keep doing that.
Thank you.
And that's not going to happen until we're competitive.
Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
I mean, there's the 2 sides to public health per se, in the fact that the whole issue of addiction and whatever,
Right.
as a big picture thing, is always an issue. But then in the dynamics of New England, having so many places so close, you're not sure whether what's going to happen or not is going to have a numerical impact on that population, whatever that population is. But still, I think some of the issues that have been talked about here today clearly sit there and say, the jobs, is it really as much as they say? I think the number of casinos that they're talking about, number of facilities,
Yeah.
I just don't know if that population base that's already being pulled in 20 different directions already
Right.
Yeah.
is now going to be able to support a new,
Yep.
so-called industry here in the state.
Yeah.
And therefore, are they going to get in trouble? And then, like you were saying, they're going to pull away from the lottery and some of the other things. So, as usual,
So are you going to vote for the repeal? Or
I'd
do you
vote
not?
yes.
Yeah, vote, yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with you and Dennis. I don't know if all of you read that New Jersey recently closed 3 of their casinos along Atlantic City.
Yeah, I did read that.
What's happening is the market is becoming saturated.
Yep.
In the old days, it used to be you wanted to gamble in a big casino, you go to Las Vegas. Then Atlantic City opened a few casinos. In the beginning, everything was great. Everybody was happy. Donald Trump was in there with, oh, what a great casino I have. And then, of course, then Connecticut built 2 casinos. Now New York is building casinos. Rhode Island building casinos. New Hampshire.
Maine.
The market is the market's becoming saturated, so that people aren't going to drive long distances to Connecticut anymore if there's one nearby. So one, I think, initially, yes, if a new casino opens up, it's $30 million. Yeah, for the first few years, people will run to it and look at it and check. But I think as the years go by, the revenues will decrease. It will become more decrepit or whatever. So I'm not in favor of that. I don't think that's good. 2, I don't think it's a wholesome way to raise revenues, as Janet alluded to. Yes, there's jobs there, but what kind of jobs are they? You're basically in the greed industry, and and once people get in there and once they make some money, they very often put their winnings back in. That's how Wynn is able to build $1 billion casino, because people are foolish with the money. Once they get in a casino, they don't know how to take their winnings home with them.
Yeah.
So, and with the 30% addiction, or even if it's 10%, a lot of people, and a lot of them are struggling, even if they're middle class, whatever. If you waste your rent and all of this because you're addicted to this, and that happens, that is not good for society as a whole.
Right.
So basically, I hope we repeal it. According to the polls, though, it doesn't look like my side's going to win in this. It looks like the casinos are still going to go through, according to polls I've seen.
Today's
But we'll
poll
see.
it had it by 10 points.
By 10 points, yeah, we'll see. And I'm not huge either way, but I don't think this is the way to go. So I'm in favor of
Fine,
repeal.
yeah.
So I'm in agreement with you. But I missed question number 2 as I was reviewing this. Question number 2 is, I think you'll be interested in this. Should we expand deposits? Basically, should we expand deposits on containers of water and juice now here in Massachusetts? Any thoughts on this, anybody?
Well, I mean, if we weren't doing a reasonable job in recycling, I mean, the whole concept is, does that water bottle go somewhere inadvertently and therefore whatever? And, are we generally recycling what we're supposed to recycle? And I'm just not sure that that particular burden, is going to force the public to go to an ultra level of recycling, and I guess that's the obvious issue. They want us to go to that ultra level that basically everybody's going to spend this huge amount of time with every single product that they have here and there and whatever. And I just don't know if it's human nature that we're going that way, and therefore, and also too, regretfully, the money that's already being left over through the bottle bill, the existing bottle bill, and where it is sitting and whatever, and what never comes back. This is just going to be a bigger,
Another pot of gold.
a bigger
Another
pot
tax.
of what's not coming back,
Right.
kind of thing, and therefore, and then who decides what to do with it?
Yes.
And this, that, whatever kind of thing.
So you're not in favor of expanding
personally,
deposits?
yeah. I
Personally,
mean, I'm not,
And you too, Dennis?
I
You're
would not be in favor of
yeah.
expanding it, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, it targets the distributors. It's an industry. We're trying to get the economy going again. Now they're going to have to carry an added cost. It gives the Secretary of Environmental Affairs a considerable amount of discretion to adjust these particular the fees and the rates for the charge on the deposits, and that makes this a wholly arbitrary kind of a situation, in my judgment. Particularly when you're dealing with a sensitive retail industry that has to deal with the sales tax, that has to deal with an inventory tax, that now is going to have to worry about 3 cents on this or 4 cents, however it goes up. So I'm very, very leery about it. I would not support it.
Yeah, thank you.
I wouldn't either. And the thing that is that it's open-ended on the amount every so often. What's it, 5 years or
Yeah.
less than that?
Yeah.
That they're going to go up. It's open-ended.
Is that
it's
tied
not,
to inflation as well?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think
it's
it
another.
is. So
another-
I'm
So
not-
you must love it.
So
No,
you-
no, I don't love it.
No, so I'm not in favor
No,
of
which
it.
I'll
It's just
explain,
too
but-
open-ended for me.
No, I understood it was just 5 cents per container.
Right
but
now.
5 cents, yeah.
But it's going
Well,
to
I
go
don't
up.
think indexing is in there right now, but
No.
no, I don't think so. But go ahead, Janet, what do you think?
I'm against it as
Yeah.
well. I mean, I just
Yeah.
see it as another way for the government to come in and do just a money grab on us and
Yeah.
think of one more thing to,
Yeah.
Well, what's
you know,
the
one
figure
more
you
fee
see
to
on
impose
there?
on us.
$350 million, and I think the question is, where is it? Where does it go?
Well, there's a part that the legislature gets to control, and I
Probably.
think that's something I don't think they need to have
No.
their hands on another pot of money again. I
I
just
don't
don't
think
think
so
it's
either.
good.
And so we're unanimous on this. I
Yeah, I think
also
so.
am against the deposit, especially people living here north of Chelmsford, say, and Dunstable, et cetera. I mean, in
Yeah,
New Hampshire,
yeah.
you have it totally state tax-free.
absolutely right.
I mean, it's crazy. So incentives are very important. Are we giving in more people incentives to travel to New Hampshire?
will.
Where they're taxed? We will. It's a slight difference,
will.
but when you add it to all the other taxes,
Yeah.
people would be more inclined to go to New Hampshire for their shopping. Secondly, if there was a problem with people throwing water bottles and juice bottles all over the roads, if I saw a lot of pollution there, that would be one thing. I do a lot of biking throughout the eastern part of the state. There's not bottles and juice bottles and water
right.
bottles
That's good.
all over the place. I tell you, our citizenry are doing very well as far as that. And in Chelmsford, I know we do a great job in other communities with
Recycling,
recycling.
right.
I know I put all my plastic bottles in recycling.
Right.
So this is unnecessary. I think it'd be a burden on especially working class people who 5 cents times 20, it adds up for them.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm very much against it. And I'm not in favor of the government taxing wherever they can. So hopefully this won't pass at all. We'll see how it goes, but hopefully.
I mean, personally, the whole issue of recycling and solid waste and losing facilities and all the rest of the things that go on there, whatever, it can always come back to the beginning, which is, why are they creating so much packaging in the first place?
Yeah.
Okay? They can create less packaging and resolve a lot of these issues, okay, by doing it from the other side. But no, it's always the end user, you know, has to somehow feed back and stop and force them to change or whatever. And it's sort of like, as an end user, you get a little tired of always being, well, you won't do it on your own, so we're going to indirectly force you to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, hopefully this deposit law won't pass,
Yes,
the
right.
increase. And especially, I also think the water is extremely important to one's health. Another
Absolutely.
thing, we're supposed to drink like 8 glasses a day. I think we want incentives so they drink more. And one way you have incentives, reducing the price of something, right? You increase the price of something and there's a reduction in consumption. But anyway, our time is flying by, which is terrible. We have so many topics to get to. I can't believe it. Question number 4. Basically, a yes vote would allow workers to earn up to 40 hours of sick time a year to take care of their own health or a family member's health. Workers will earn 1 hour of sick time for every 30 hours worked. Any quick thoughts on this before we go to other topics?
Well, I'll drop in on that one. I think I have a concern about that. We just went with a minimum wage increase, and the jobs that they're talking about, we're talking about a small number of jobs in Massachusetts. Most employers in Massachusetts grant sick time, they grant sick leave. You're talking here, this is aimed at startup companies, people who are just starting out, and I don't think in those cases the folks are really able to, the managers of these businesses are able to accommodate that. Plus it extends it to state employees and state programs, which I can't understand why, because every state employee is basically involved in some kind of contract with an employee
have a
union,
contract.
and sick leave is very well addressed in those
that's for sure.
contracts.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why that's necessary in there. So I have reservations about
Yeah,
that.
thank you. Any other quick comments on
No,
that?
I
Our time
agree.
is zipping
I
by.
agree with you, Dennis.
You
I think
agree
it's
with that?
social
Yeah.
engineering
It is.
of,
It's just
of micromanaging too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I think you know, they just constantly want to micromanage just about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a free enterprise system.
Yeah,
And
no, and
it's-
I agree. Sometimes we could overburden, especially our small businesses and our startups. and it provides a disincentive for them to start up small business when you have so many regulations. But so I'm agreeing with you all on this. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, the businesses themselves, when they could afford it, can give people sick time for themselves and their family members.
Tom, we got 3 out of 4 with you.
All
This is
right.
pretty good.
Yeah.
This is pretty good.
All right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm
that
a
a-
fiscal
Is that
conservative,
a
as I told
first?
you.
Is that a first?
Well, we only have a few minutes up, but there's a few, like medical marijuana and legalization of marijuana. Any thoughts about that? It's legal now totally in Colorado and Washington.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on? I know in Massachusetts we voted to allow medical marijuana, and it's been 2 years now. Some people are complaining that it's taking so long to get the clinics off the ground, and it's just turning into a big nightmare in a sense, a bureaucratic nightmare. Any thoughts about medical marijuana or even legalization of marijuana in Massachusetts?
Well, I think, okay.
Oh, I was just going to mention, I have some clients out in Denver, so I fly out there every once in a
yeah.
while. So I get some firsthand account
Yeah,
of what
sure.
they're going through and their parents.
Yes.
And they said it's just an absolute nightmare.
Who
You-
says it,
you
the
just-
parents or?
The parents.
Yes, yeah.
Because they just see, a kid sees a chocolate chip cookie, who knows? And the potency of it. You know,
Well, you
it's,
don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear reports now of kids and even adults ending up in emergency rooms because, they ate something, a piece of candy. It really boggles my mind that we as a society find that acceptable. I mean, it's a little scary, this path we're going on. Where
Well, again, they use the initial phase of compassionate.
Right.
Yeah.
Medical oldest person, who's suffering, and marijuana is of course, if you just took it and made the ingredient a prescribed drug and then prescribed it, then you know exactly what's in it and how much it should be giving. No,
exactly.
instead of going the right way,
Right.
they go around robin. And then, of course, immediately let's just legalize it across the board.
because they can tax it too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's all about money.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's
I'm
it's,
not-
it's legalized drug dealers. I mean,
Right.
bottom line, and
And you've probably heard about
Yeah.
in California where they have the medical marijuana for quite a while. And you see the jokes on TV all the time that people they go to these doctors and they get a card saying they're sick or they have nervous disorder.
That's right.
And
It's
they're,
not-
they're
it's
just
not
going to get
regulated.
high, basically.
This-
And they're charging a lot for what I understand for this marijuana, so it's crazy. But,
Yeah.
but anyway,
One of the biggest concerns about legalization of marijuana is the fact that when it comes to operation of vehicles, operation of machinery, and things like that, there isn't the same technical expertise available as there is with alcohol to test people for blood alcohol, what their actual levels in their system is. This would present a major problem for law enforcement people to try to determine whether or not somebody was operating under
There's
the
no
influence.
immediate
There
test
isn't
you could
anything
do.
like Brother Lizer is pretty clear cut. It's been accepted over the
Nothing for
years,
marijuana
but
like
there's
that?
nothing like that for unless you go to a straight blood test.
Yeah.
And I know that Arizona does allow their police officers to take blood. I'm not sure if Massachusetts is ready to go down that
Yeah.
that road yet.
yes, yeah.
You know, so.
So you're not in favor of this?
I would
right?
not be a favorite. I would. I believe it's going to be up for a ballot question in 2016.
I heard that, yeah, for full legalization.
Yeah,
It might be
but
coming
I'm
up.
not
But I mean,
in
we
favor.
should be about
I think
sobriety.
that's when Richard retires. He's
Yeah.
had it. He's lost
We should
faith
be
in
about
humanity.
sobriety. I mean, we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about sobriety.
Yeah.
We want people to be sober. It shouldn't become the preoccupation of a major public debate that whether or not we want to get stoned or not. I mean,
Yeah.
we should be talking about trying to make the
Right.
kids clear-headed, get them thinking, get them productive.
Exactly,
That's what we want to do.
exactly. And Angie
I'm
agrees with
against
that,
it,
yeah.
yeah. I'm not in
So
favor of
I
that.
think we're unanimous on this one as
Yeah.
well. I mean, even Governor Jerry Brown, who is somewhat liberal
Right.
governor, you might say, he's
not.
doing a great job now. He's not in favor of it
of
either.
it,
He's,
no.
do we really want a society of stoned people?
No, it's not a good
And you
thing.
look at the young people now, I hear that it's really getting very
Yes.
bad with drugs. And what it is kind of a
It's a
gateway,
gateway
in a sense,
drug,
as they
yeah.
say,
It
you
is,
know,
yeah.
but it's kind of true because you look at the opiate problem now with the young
Yeah.
people.
Big
I bet
issue.
you they all started, well, with alcohol and marijuana, but alcohol I put in a little different category, but I don't have time to go into all the reasons for it now. But yeah, I don't think our society wants to go down this path. But unfortunately,
not.
it looks like we already approved medical marijuana. Geez, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm not in favor of it though. And so, how about universal background checks for anybody who wants to buy a gun in any venue in Massachusetts, like gun shows and gun stores.
I think we have. Massachusetts
that,
has
right?
really been ahead of
that.
everybody
But
else.
what about cutting down, and buying high-capacity magazines,
the
type guns, that kind of thing?
the background checks are done. I mean, right now, the thing about the capacity is there's already a prohibition against automatic weapons. You can't buy automatic weapons. So unless you have a federal license, which is at an extremely high level to get. As far as the semi-automatic weapons, I mean, the discussion. I mean, generally, it's that focus tends to focus the issue away from who's getting the firearm to the firearm. And I think the real discussion has to be where the real issue is who's getting these, what's the process for regulating them.
Yeah.
Massachusetts has done well because we've had a good system. A lot of these states where you've seen the disasters have had absolutely no background checking for people at all.
In
And
fact,
that's
New
why they
Ham-
can walk in and just buy
Does
weapons.
New Hampshire have that, where it's kind of more open?
It's
You could go in and
much
buy a
less
gun?
than Massachusetts.
I've never tried, and I haven't bought
I think you can
bought
buy a
gun, but
rifle up in Massachusetts without having a license.
in
Massachusetts or New
Yeah,
Hampshire?
New
New Hampshire
Hampshire.
without
New
having
Hampshire.
a license.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it's amazing, but I find that anyway. But anyway, here in Massachusetts, though, before you could go in and buy
you
a
have
gun,
you have a background
your
check.
background check, which is
Yeah.
great. And now
Yeah.
with the computers now, there's no excuse for it. But the gun shows, that's the big loophole, right?
Well,
But
if it's
hopefully
done in
we have that-
Massachusetts, there should be. I mean, the sales
They
are
have to.
regulated in
They still do
Massachusetts
it.
very
They
strictly.
Right,
still
and they
have
should,
to,
but
right?
it's in
Yeah.
other parts of the country.
Yeah.
They have gun shows. People just go buy all these guns with no background check. It's crazy, it seems to me.
A question that I have is, why would people want a semi-automatic? I mean, what's the purpose of it? I mean, I don't never
they
use
can.
guns. I know, but I mean, like, usually there's always a reason for
Right.
why people want it, and I don't see it. You know.
Well, I know that there are a lot of
What
lot
would
of
they
folks.
use it?
Well, they use it for this. First of all, one major issue. There's a lot of competitive groups. Like, take the old M1 Garand rifle was a standard Army rifle. There's a very avid group of competitors throughout the nation that go and use that rifle, and they compete. And a lot of them are former service people that like to still be able to maintain their skills and things like that, and they use it that way. But it's who gets the weapon
Who gets
is
it?
the key, or the
It
right
is, you're right,
firearm.
you're right.
That's
And
the
also,
key.
too, the issue of, which the country's done a very poor job, is on mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Major-
Oh,
Exactly.
that's the
major
thing.
problem.
They
Some of
don't
these
seem
people-
to be rolling that into the formula.
To
Yeah,
get
they
it.
should.
To get it.
Uh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
many
I
people
think
are
that's
very
what-
mentally ill, and they're going in and buying guns, and even
Right.
young teenagers and students
Right
now.
over the
It's
table, right over the
Connecticut.
counter.
Look at
Yeah.
Connecticut. That
Yeah.
kid and his mother. They're taking him to the shooting range.
Yes.
Yeah.
And having guns all over the house.
That's the issue,
When the
yeah.
son
There it is.
was so ill, he didn't allow his mother to come downstairs, and he blacked out the windows in the basement so he could play video games all day.
You're right on
Violent
that. You're
video
right on that
games.
issue. That's exactly what.
And
Yes.
what he
what it
did.
is,
And
yes.
The kid had a lot of problems, but yet his mother takes him to shooting range,
Yeah.
has guns all over the house.
Yeah.
It's
That's what-
crazy.
that's
It's
what I'm
crazy.
saying. What does it lead to?
Yeah.
You know.
And well, one thing we're leading to is a minimum wage coming up soon, increased to $9 an hour in January 2015. Any thoughts about that?
I don't disagree.
Quickly, very quickly, 1 second. Could you quickly?
I don't disagree with the minimum wage. I have an issue with it tied to inflation. I just wanted to talk
Yeah,
about
you don't
that.
like
No.
tying things to it.
Yeah,
Do
no.
you get Social Security? No.
Not yet.
No, what do you do? You want to type. But thank you for being here, Dennis.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's a lot of fun. I think we had a good
Oh,
time
yes.
discussing
It
the
was
issues,
good. I
right?
thought that
Thank
was
you,
good.
Not a
Richard
problem.
Day. Thank you
Discussion.
very
I thought
much.
it was
Pleasure.
good.
Thank you very much,
You're
Angie.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet Askenburg.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun talking these issues, right, with this great panel.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
And
much.
Dennis is running, as everybody knows, state representative.
Yes.
Jim Arcero is going to be on our show in mid-October. So I think our next show, Jim Arcero will be here. Thank you, George and Azora and Larry, our great camera people, and our great director, Pete Padula.
Twice.
Hopefully the future director of Chelmsford Telemedia. And if you have any comments on the show, please send me an email at tcristiano@comcast.net. Ciao.